I love that Australian voice. It always makes you sound much more important. Mr. Tom Durkin. Right, so I hope you had a good lunch and had an opportunity to socialize with one another, make new connections. That's, you know, the main reason we're here is to network and to absorb the knowledge of our various panelists. We're going to have our next panel is about partnerships, and it's really grown dramatically in the last 15 or 20 years, and now partnerships, most I would think that just in terms of sheer numbers, partnerships have more owners than any other type of ownership program in the racing game. This particular panel is being sponsored by a partnership group. Let's take a look at the West Point Thoroughbreds.
How do you become the gold standard in racing partnerships? One horse, one partner, one victory at a time. Congratulations to all our partners who have made West Point the gold standard for the last 3 decades.
My pleasure to welcome back the moderator with the mostest, Carolyn Conley. Carolyn? There she is. And aren't you the picture of a summer day?
Well, you know, I think we all need to take a lap around the racetrack after that delicious dessert. That was incredible. I hope you enjoyed your lunch. I certainly did. Well, partnerships are the topic at hand, and there are several ways to become a thoroughbred owner, as you know. Forming a partnership or joining a racing syndicate are 2 of the newest methods to take hold, and this panel includes 4 individuals with considerable experience in partnerships who will share their insights as to the benefits of being involved in this fast-growing form of ownership. So first off, this professor and chair of economics at Rhodes College is also the co-founder of 10 Strike Racing, which has over 449 wins at 30 different racetracks. He's bred 5 stakes horses from his modest broodmare band, and he sits on the board of the Thoroughbred Idea Foundation and the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association. Please welcome to the stage, Dr. Marshall Graham. Hey, Marshall, glad you're here. Our next panelist is the founder and chairman of the Green Group and has had a long and distinguished career as an entrepreneur and tax expert. In 2018, he began a monthly column called Proven Strategies in the Thoroughbred Daily News. It discusses tax implications specific to the thoroughbred industry, including issues pertaining to owners. Please give a warm welcome to Len Green. Right up here, yeah. How about right here? My pleasure. Next up is a senior advisor and co-owner in the Taste of Victory Stables, a national racing syndicate that distinguishes itself by offering equity-based ownership experiences at share prices under $2,500. His first racetrack experience was at Brandywine Raceway, and it wasn't to see the horses, it was to get his picture taken with the Stanley Cup. I mean, who can blame him, right? But from then, he was hooked on horses, and by the way, his license plate reads by a nose. So join me in welcoming Russ Sapienza. Russ? And finally, this Kentucky native with TaylorMade's Medallion Racing Partnership has an all-encompassing position identifying acquisitions, handling communication between trainers and investors, and race day concierge while at the racetrack. He's the ideal person to manage this partnership, and his passion for racing and dedication to customer service have helped drive the medallion racing experience. Welcome to the stage, Phillip Shelton. And I'll remind you all, keep your mics up so we can all hear well. And, oh, there we go. All of you are involved in racing partnerships. The question here as we begin, why are partnerships a good ownership option for new or existing owners versus sole ownership? And Russ, we'll start with you.
Wow, that's a long answer to a short question, but I'll keep it short. It's complicated, right? There's a lot of risks involved. So one way to get into this, especially if you're new, I don't know how many people here are not involved at all or are curious about involvement, but it's a way to dip your toe into the water, manage the risk from a emotional side as well as from a financial side.
What do you say to that, Phil?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You know, one thing we encourage everybody to do is to really think about what you are trying to accomplish, you know, with your ownership experience, and learning is a huge thing I think that partnerships do. You know, some people can manage, you know, the way you get bills and other things that just make it a much smoother entry point than if you just kind of go head first in and you look up a year later and you've got 4 horses and you're getting your bills and the financial implications are a lot different. So I think from a risk perspective, it's great. And really from a knowledge gathering standpoint, I think it's also great.
Well, what do you think, Marshall?
I think they've said all the keys. It's really all about learning. I mean, there's if you're with a group of people, you can, you know, buy in cheaper on a horse, learn about the processes, meet the right people, even things like the licensing and the shipping and the choosing a trainer, all the aspects of the game, learning from people who've done it before, and really setting yourselves up maybe in the long run to go out on your own.
There's a new trend in racehorse ownership that we've seen in recent years, and maybe it's not so new, but it's something that's certainly been evident in the past decade or so, and that's seeing larger racehorse owners form partnerships when instead of competing for horses at the sales. What's causing this new trend, and is this something new, Len, or
Well, I get a chance to talk?
Well, I was saving all the good questions for you.
Yeah, I kind of think again, welcome everybody. I wish I had this kind of session when I was starting, because I wouldn't have made all the mistakes I made. I think the next book will be all the 101 mistakes I made, you know, in racing.
Just bring your mic up a little bit. Thanks.
I think when certain people are at sales and you suddenly see prices going up, that's great for the sellers, but not necessarily for the buyers. So the buyers are getting smarter and saying, wait a second, okay, there are syndicates which are fine because you can buy small parts, but let me just find a friend or so who we can buy a horse together with. And I think a lot of you, when you're starting, okay, should get friends to buy certain horses. But as you start getting into the horses that are more expensive, the more expensive owners are saying, wait a second, okay, let's get together. So when a guy like Viola and Rapoli get together and say, okay, we're going to buy 50 horses, we might as well buy them together instead of bidding against each other. So that's going to be that trend. But I still think the main part you're going to find is going to be 3 or 4 friends getting together and buying a horse. That is the best way to do it.
Phil, do you think that trend is most predominant when people are looking at potential stallion prospects?
Yeah, I think the major group for what you're talking about, it's absolutely stallions. You know, at the end of the day, horse racing is a home run game. There's a lot of great experiential things and everything else, but from a purely financial perspective, you got to have the one horse that pays for 10. And that's more true in the stallion business. You could go put up $20 million to buy a bunch of stallions. If you get the right one to hit, it paid for everything else that you did. So I think at the sales perspective, almost all those massive partnerships are focused on, you know, potential stallions. And I mean, you know, we see it every day because we're the largest consignor of thoroughbreds in the world, you know, at TaylorMade. So I mean, everything we're selling is a potential, partnership horse at the very high end for those stallion making groups.
I just think of it as when the big keep getting bigger, I'm just putting my business hat on now, not a horse racing hat. When the big keep getting bigger, that makes it tough for a lot of others. Now, for a group like us, we'll never be at that level. It would be nice if those groups would come to groups like us and some of the others out here to say, would you like to be ride that train?
Yeah, I like that.
We're going to allocate 5% for you so you can be part of that, because we know you could never be part of it given any other circumstance. And I say that also from a group that's been to the Breeders' Cup 3 times in the last 7 years you have to be good to be lucky, and we've been connected with some really good people, but not at that stratospheric level. So, I guess I'm kind of mixed on it. It's happening because it's a free market system and it's capitalism, but at the same time, I'm not sure we've fully measured the hurt that it's put on others from a competitive perspective.
Absolutely. Marshall?
Yeah, I'm mixed on it too, but I think it's more good horses, fewer concentrated hands going to fewer trainers. But we actually have that chance because we're involved with a bigger group. We're involved with a group with Spendthrift that raised $8 million to buy 25 colts to send to Brad Cox with Liz Crow, and so we took our small percentage of that. So. And our partners took the smaller percentage of that. And it's kind of interesting, our perspective in terms of being a partnership that's in a broader partnership is our partners kind of rejected it, right? They didn't like being micro share owners. So our partners are more attracted to seeing horses run in the purple and black of 10-track racing versus being a down program and owning 0.01% of a horse. So for us, it might not be something we do again, but it's kind of interesting to give it a test run as a partnership that's part of a broader partnership. And all these partnerships are people getting together to try to give themselves a better chance instead of, $5,000. In this case, it was bigger partners putting up $1 million each or $500,000 each. And that's, in essence, all part of the same idea.
I think it's interesting, too. Oh, go ahead, Len.
I just add one more thing. Sitting where you're sitting, though, okay? I think there's a learning curve, and I think the learning curve can be accelerated if you'll start with your own horse or a small group with a trainer that you can talk to, et cetera. And then as you start getting more and more involved in it and more knowledgeable, then I think you can appreciate what some of these partnerships can do for you, because there you have a chance to throw a dart at a much bigger dartboard. But get your feet on the ground first, this way.
All right, well, let's talk about success stories within these partnerships. All of you have had tremendous success along the way. What are a few examples of partners in your partnerships that have gotten involved with horses that became top horses? Phillip, rather?
Yeah, so I think for us, ours is slightly different. Anybody that joins our partnership gets a representative share of every single horse that we have. So, our flagship fund will, through the course of a 2-year cycle, will have, let's call it 14 horses. So everybody gets a piece of each share. But, I think like last year we had 9 horses in training. At the time we had 4 Breeders' Cup starters, which was really exceptional. We own a piece of Bella Sophia, who's going to be the favorite in the Honorable Miss here at Saratoga tomorrow. So I think, for us, what we really try to do is say, hey, we're going to create a model that buys into proven horses. We're going to kind of say guarantee, but we're going to really focus on trying to have a very high level experience so that, our people, like we had a grade 2 starter at Del Mar on Saturday. We'll have a grade, favorite and a grade 2 here Wednesday. So we've really tried to do a different take. So a lot of our guys have gotten to travel and, like we took a huge group. We had a starter at Royal Ascot this year, so we took 14 partners to Ascot. So for us, it's really trying to create this experience at a very high level and take all of our partners along for the ride, because it's across the country. Some people only focus on the races that we have here, but we have other partners in California or kind of all over. So ours is slightly different because everybody owns a piece of every horse.
Right. Okay.
But it's been a ton of fun along the way. I think my probably personal favorite I would say was when we had a filly named Bo Recall, who was just like a come from dead last closer on the grass. She weighed like 850 pounds. Nobody in any of the yearling selection committees ever would have picked her. She, was probably this wide across her chest, but she won $1.5 million, and she won the distaff mile at Churchill on Derby Day 2 years in a row. And of just being a lifelong Kentucky resident, I would say, getting to take all of our partners to the director's room and kind of win that race on Derby Day was just really special.
Marshall, you've done extraordinarily well with your brood mares. Are your partners involved at all with your breeding? Because you've produced 5 stakes winners.
Well, the broodmare thing has been total luck. So there's been so I've not. I feel like a bad run of luck is coming. So that our partnership has mainly been buying yearlings and 2-year-olds. We tend to buy our groups together, meaning that people be involved in a partnership that will buy 8 to 10 horses. Maybe spend $500,000 or $600,000, partner with some other people, looking to get a good horse. Some of our partnerships have struggled. Some of them have been successful. We hope to find that one horse will carry it. We took Warriors Charge to the 2019 Preakness, and that was a fun event. We had 70 partners make the trip up to Baltimore, had a chalet there. Our focus has primarily been Oaklawn Park, so our goals have been winning races at Oaklawn, and while we have yet to win a big stakes there, we had 12 wins this year, and so we found our niche is Oaklawn Park. We sort of initially started as just a group of owners who together wanted to pool our money to buy horses, and we quickly found by using all of our names on our horses, Graham, Sanders, Petrangelo, and et cetera, that the licensing and the paperwork was a nightmare. So that's why getting into partnership, putting it all together under one umbrella has alleviated most of the paperwork, and it sort of spawned from there.
Len, you've done extraordinarily well with so many different trainers, too. What are some of your favorite success stories with the partners?
Well, I'll go back one to the first question before that, just real fast. My partnerships have been the toughest partnerships to have because it's my wife and my son. and they think they should have an opinion on where horses should run and which ones to buy, etc. A hint to you, though, sitting here, okay? The biggest horses that we've had so far that have won Breeders' Cups and all that kind of stuff are horses that from first-year sires that nobody ever heard of before. So you take that calculated risk of doing that, and when it happens, it's very, very exciting. And what was your second question? Okay, who are these other people on the panel? I have no idea.
Your favorite success story, your favorite winner?
That's the one where we're going to win the Breeders' Cup and the Kentucky Derby and the whole thing? Because that's coming. One. Because we're doing all the strategy thing, and I'm so knowledgeable, blah, blah, blah. Mr. Luck and God, would you please?
You got to put it out there.
It hasn't happened yet, although each time you do these things, each time you win a graded stake, each time you win a grade 1 stake, each time you win, the Breeders' Cup, they are highs and highs and highs, and they're a little bit higher than when my first $5,000 claimer won. But they're all just steps, and enjoy each part of it. Sorry.
Russ?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have 2 brothers, Frank and Tony. I'll leave their last name off. But Frank and Tony have been part of our partnerships for a bunch of years. And we've had 10, 15, 20 people involved. And one day they came to us and said, look, we'd like to kind of go off on our own. We still want to run under Taste of Victory. You guys take care of all the paperwork and the accounting and bookkeeping. We'll help capitalize it. And we got them involved in a horse called Hit the Road. It's been a nice turf winner for us. He's
gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, Dan Blacker trains him, California, and we have one of his legs. And when you sit there, let's say at the breakfast marquee at the Breeders' Cup on a Wednesday morning, and the entire world of thoroughbred racing is in one room together, it hits you as to what that accomplishment is, just to compete, let alone in one case scratched due to a spike fever the day before. But you understand why you work so hard for that moment. It makes those $5,000 claiming races just as exciting because you know those are just as much fun too.
Well, this question will begin with you, Len. One of the challenges for anyone entering our business as an owner is understanding the cost of ownership. So describe the costs to maintain a horse in training, like day rate, veterinary insurance, vanning, et cetera.
Are you ready? Because all those, when we start talking about the cost now, it kind of leads to, well, then why are there partnerships? And why are there bigger and bigger partnerships, et cetera, kind of thing. And the advantage of the partnership is you can hit the home run, whether it's tis the law or what have you. When that happens, it pays for everything else, okay? So again, the cost varies, but let's get specific. Let's say I was running in New York. Well, I expect to play, believe it or not, $5,000 to $6,000 per horse when you add up the training and the veterinarians and all the other parts of the thing. This gets to be an expensive game. Now, for me, it's not, because I have 100 horses, so you get big discounts when you have 100 horses, right? No, you don't get any discounts at all, kind of thing, okay? What you do is you say to your kids, this is part of your inheritance, so I hope you're going to enjoy this, okay? So again, it's a very expensive game. And when you add to that, when you really are saying to yourself, I would like to increase my chances of getting that really big horse, because that big horse will get me back some of my money, or I'm going after that very well pedigreed filly because there's residual, okay? But it would be nice if she also wins some races and gets graded stakes. Well, then you're paying a lot more money to buy that horse, because believe it or not, other people know that. Mm-hmm. So again, it's a very expensive game, it's a very exciting game, and thank goodness my real partner is the Internal Revenue Service, who says, Len, I'll take care of half the costs of this game. Yeah. So to learn that, I became an expert in that area, because I figured, hey, at least if I get the tax benefits, okay, it makes it less expensive.
One thing we do, and this is more of a comment on when you get those bills, look at them. Don't just pass them through to the bookkeeper and say, okay, this is okay to pay. And I'm specifically referring to training bills. When you start to look at training bills and you see these medicines and medications that are given and therapies, if you don't know what it is, Google it. It's that simple. And you can see if something is for a soft tissue injury, a bone issue, and call your trainers and ask them about it. Let them know you're watching. I guess that's probably the takeaway here, is let them know you're watching, especially now, given our next generation of life with HISA. I think a lot of trainers think we just don't understand it and pass it on. So take a look at the bills carefully and question it. And there's nothing wrong with it. It could be an uncomfortable, awkward 30 seconds with the trainer or the racing manager for the trainer, but do it.
And I think it can make a big difference in your bottom line, because a tube of omeprazole to treat ulcers, a GastroGuard, I had a vet charge me $41 for that, and I could get it for $35, I think, at the Haggard Pharmacy. So it pays to pay attention, because the trainers sometimes say, oh, the owner just covers that. I don't worry about that. But if you show that you're paying attention, it helps.
And also, you want to race. Okay, so every time the trainer says, well, the horse is not quite ready, or this, that, or the other thing, you're still paying for that time and effort. So again, sit down with your trainer and say, hey, are you and I on the same team on this? Am I important enough to you? Okay, and if I am, then let's talk about how we can make money together on this horse. Don't just train the horse, be part of my team that wants to win races.
Marshall, how do you go about talking about this expenses with your...
When I talk to my owners, and even when we talk to new partners or people who are interested in racing, I very much talk to them that they have to approach this as a consumption activity. If they don't enjoy racing, if they think of this as an investment, there's a lot fewer, there's only a few worse ways to go. Right, and so really have to love the sport. It is expensive to participate. Horses get hurt, take time off, lose. We've had horses that we spent a lot of money on that are still maidens, right? $500,000 horses that can't win for maiden 30, and you're spending $5,000 a month on vet and training, and those numbers are going to go up. I mean, the inflation is real. In my day job, I'm an economist, and that's, day rates are going to go up. Feed has gone up. Transportation has gone up. So it's very tough. The reason that we formed the partnership, Clay and Sanders and I, another Memphian, formed our partnership is we wanted to be able to buy 1 or 2 horses, and we thought, hey, let's get our friends involved and buy more, right? So that's been, our goal is in terms of just spreading the risk, spreading the cost. But when you're buying yearlings and 2-year-olds, you're hoping for the lottery ticket, and anything you can do. And the one thing I think is a great thing about partnerships is you're spreading the cost. I mean, we make it, our partners pay 3% up charge on the horses we buy, and we charge $1 a day in administrative fees to pay for our accountant, right? And so it's all about keeping costs low because racing itself is so expensive.
Phillip, do you lay out these costs ahead of time so owners know in advance what they will pay, or how do you work with that?
Yeah. Again, we probably do it slightly different. The way we structure ours is that everything's included. So it's a one-time payment. We're kind of in a unique position because a medallion is a part of TaylorMade. So we have TaylorMade there as a backstop if we ever run negative. But yeah, I try to be very upfront with everybody, just much like Marshall said. If your goal is to make 10% a year, I would tell you to call your stockbroker. And so it's, again, what experience are you looking for? Are you looking to be in a regional area and you live here in New York and you want your horses running at Saratoga every summer? There's a lot of great partnerships that focus on this. If you want to, own 5 to 10% of a horse, we're not the partnership for you. If you want to own a bunch of horses at a high level, then we are for you. So I think it's really just like Russ said, be your own advocate. You need to ask the questions and figure out, is this the right fit for you? And whether it's sole ownership, getting 3 buddies together, joining a partnership, and then what is the financial outlay to accomplish those goals, and are you comfortable with that? And, the biggest thing I tell everybody is just like Lynn said, to train a horse for a year, it's somewhere between $60,000 and $70,000. So if you have 10 horses, you're already $600,000 in the hole before the year started. So you're like, we won 5 races. That's great, but that you're not, chances are you're not making money at the end unless you win the right ones, or you have the one horse again that pays for the rest. So I think you should do this because you love it, and then you can figure out how to make the financial part and what your budget is work from there, and your partnerships are a great way to do that.
Len, we're going to start with you again on this question, and it's about having a business plan. What is your role in helping a new owner establish a plan, and how extensive should that business plan be?
All right. If you get nothing out of this section, which you will anyway, because everybody's got something, just keep this foundation in your mind, okay? If you're going to buy a horse, you probably have been successful in something. And if you've been successful in something, did you just go into it without knowing anything about it? The answer is no, okay? You learned about it, and you had some kind of strategy that you put together as to how you expected to reach success. Well, the same thing happens here. You got to have a game plan, which is going to change every time, okay? I put business plans, believe it or not, on toilet paper, because once the horse starts running, I'm going to find out whether it's good or bad, and then at least I have a business plan that's useful for something. But a business plan is also very, very good for, again, I keep on harping back sometimes, because to me, if the Internal Revenue Service will pick up half the bill, I say, I got a fighting chance. Well, to do that, you have to be active. What is active? Well, if somebody just reading the book will say 500 hours. Bullshit. Excuse me. Okay? 100 hours. That includes time like this. It includes time in the partnerships. Okay? So you easily can get the 100 hours. So now suddenly you find out that you're active. And if you lose money being active, you can deduct that against your other income. So come on now. You want to be active and you want to have a business plan, and the business plan's got to be flexible. And the flexible is, hey, maybe I take a little piece of this partnership, and maybe I'll learn a little bit from medallion, and maybe, okay, and I put this together, and suddenly I'm getting knowledgeable. I'm getting an opportunity to see how different trainers do things. I get an opportunity to get with a trainer who I'm important to. Or I join a bunch of people who I'm very friendly with and I enjoy, okay, and then lightning strikes, and then suddenly I'm a genius, right? So all kinds of things can happen, but you gotta have a plan, okay? And the plan also includes, as you know, trainers are very busy. Therefore, they make mistakes on bills, okay? And they sometimes have 3 or 4 horses that are eligible for the same race, and maybe they overlook you every once in a while. You got to be active with them also. The game plan is be lucky.
Yeah, I would also document what you do. I know this is kind of a geeky piece of advice, but I've got a notebook. It's in the back there. Every week, every Wednesday afternoon, we have our team call. I make my notes, knowing that the day will come when someone will ask me to prove that I was actually spending the time in there. And I just, hold the notebook up, among other things, the video of this event, probably. And it's a simple thing to do. Keep notes.
May I add just one more thing before just one more myth, okay? You have to be profitable 2 out of 7 years. You don't, okay? What you have to do is show that your intent is to make money in this game. The way you do it is, yes, you keep records of your hours, but 2, you keep on trying to change things around, mix things up, learn things, ask questions, and attend sessions like this, because it all counts.
Phillip?
Yeah, again, I would just say it's so important to figure out what your goals are. It's something that we do at TaylorMade with all of our customers, including Lynn, because Lynn has a bunch of his mares at the farm, but what is your goal and what do you want to accomplish? Because nothing is worse than when you look up and you say, man, I lost a lot of money and I didn't learn anything and I had no fun. And then a lot of times what happens is you look back and you say, well, I really was very aimless. I didn't have a lot of intent. I didn't, just start in the right place at the beginning. So I just think figuring out what you want, and you should figure that out before you ever, it doesn't mean you have to have it all figured out. There's, a lot of people that have plenty of success that don't, but you should have a goal of again, what do you want to do? And then what is the right way to go about doing that? And it all comes back to, again, be your own advocate, ask questions, figure out what are the fees that, your trainer's going to charge you if you win. And then, what are partnerships charging you if you win? They're all different, and figuring out all that information is just so important to get you on the right footing to move forward.
Marshall?
Yeah, I think that's the key. I think the key is finding your niche, right? What is it that you hope to achieve in the game? And just make sure that what you're doing makes sense, right? If you say, I want to spend $30,000 on a horse and I want to try to send that horse to Todd Pletcher, that's not going to work, right? If he does take your horse, it's going to be end of his barn. So, if you want to spend $500,000, maybe that's a little bit different. But it's really about kind of focusing on, how what you want to achieve, the races you might want to win, longer term objectives. Maybe you buy fillies and hope they can turn into brood mares. Maybe you like claiming horses. It's all about, again, looking at, everything is a niche. I mean, I'm a horse player as well as a horse owner. My niche is, long dirt races. I don't even bet turf races. I love Churchill. I love Oaklawn Park because they have the right amount of turf and dirt racing, right? And so, we look for dirt horses as a side.
Can I just one other thing, and this is a bit of an awkward subject too, given the way business is conducted in the industry, but a lot of it's done with handshakes, right? You write a $30,000 check to somebody, does a handshake really work? So as much as you can, have those awkward, if it feels awkward, ask for something in writing, be it the partner. We send a partnership agreement out to everybody before we even accept a penny from them. So they get to read all those different elements of what happens during the life cycle of that capital investment. And a lot of people, then you may find, if they say, well, we don't do business that way, you may say, well, I don't do business that way, and you walk away. Others won't. There will be just a lot of handshakes, but, be careful.
Good advice.
Just one quick one, okay? Let's say I'm sitting where you were, which I was, okay? And I bought a book on how to breed a winner by Ken McLean, okay? And it says, breed speed to stamina. So I go out and I claim 30 claimers, all of which have great early speed, and maybe they didn't carry it on, but they had early speed. And then I call up Ken McLean, who at that time was standing Stormcat, and I said, I have 30 of the fastest horses in the world. Can I send you the pedigrees? Because I want to breed to Stormcat, which was standing for 200,000, I'd say. And my wife says, you're crazy. And I said, you know that when you married me, okay? So I sent it to him, and sure enough, he calls and says, come down to Kentucky. So I fly down to Kentucky, I spread out these 30 pedigrees, and he says, I like this one, and I like this one, and he stands up and starts walking out the door. I said, what about the other 28, 29, 30? I mean, he says, where are they? I said, they're up in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, on farms. He says, they have paddocks? Yeah. They have gates? Yeah. Open them. There's a learning curve to this game.
Go big or go home, huh?
That's right.
Philip, sometimes, though, you do buy a nice horse, and that horse doesn't pan out. I mean, often more than sometimes. And you have to somehow explain to the partners that you want to drop that horse in class or run it for a claiming price. How do you go about approaching that? Or is that something that fits into your framework?
No, what I would say is honesty is the best policy. I try to tell my trainers this all the time. I said, you can tell me whatever you want, but at some point this horse is going to run in a race. And the rubber's going to meet the road. So it doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do you any good to just tell me how great this thing is, and then it runs and gets beat 30 lengths. I just think honesty is the best policy. If it's a $20,000 claimer, it's a $20,000 claimer. I can tell you whatever I want, but the performance on the track tells you. So every horse has a level. They can all be competitive at some point as long as they're sound. So, part of my role as a manager is finding out where the horses fit. And, it's disappointing when a horse doesn't, accomplish what you want it to accomplish. But, me wishing for it to accomplish that and it actually accomplishing it are not the same. So we're just very direct with all of our partners. And, again, we only buy fillies. So the majority of the ones that we buy have residual value, and they're not going to be dropping in for a tag because their residual value is higher than a claiming tag. But, we do have some that we will have to drop in, and we just say, hey, we think this is what's in the best interest of the partners. We have more than one partner, so even if one partner is upset, we just try to talk them through it. And I also offer and say, hey, if we're going to run it for 30, you can just buy the horse for 30. We even offer some of our partners the opportunity, if they feel really strongly about one horse and they think I'm misreading it, then they can step up and just buy it privately before a race. So.
What about you, Marshall?
Yeah, it's the same way, knowing where the horses fit. Look, once you spend the money and buy that horse at the sale, it's sunk. So if you buy a $500,000 horse and a $50,000 horse, and your $50,000 not working your $500,000 horse, right? Then, you've got a slow horse. You need to run it where it fits. And so, we tell our partners early on, we're going to be aggressive at moving horses on. Sometimes we move them to B circuits. We'll move horses to Delaware or Parks or Laurel. But if they don't fit there, again, we run them for a tag. We move them on. We let someone else have the opportunity. We don't look back. We still cheer for them, right? We hope those horses go on to do big things. But again, it happens more often than not. You're going to buy slow horses, right? And it's the unfortunate byproduct when you're gambling with buying that lottery ticket when they're yearling, right? You're getting a much huger variance, right? The closer you are to them racing. If you're buying a horse that's already run, you're buying it out of a maiden victory, right? You're narrowing the variance, but you're paying a lot more money. The yearling, huge variance. Weanling, giant variance, right? So you might get that lottery ticket by buying something for cheaper, but the variance is going to be a lot larger. So you're going to end up with a lot of slow horses. You got to run them where they fit. And the biggest thing I've noticed for owners that it doesn't work with their trainers is that they want to run horses over their heads, right? You have to trust your trainer you have to trust that they're looking after your interests and going to run them in the right spots. And if they say go for a tag, generally that's what we're going to do.
Yeah, we had two situations in the last couple of years around this at both ends of the spectrum. The Happy situation was, actually, the horse was named Happy Sophia. It was named after the daughter of one of the primary owners. And you know what happens when you do something like that. And the horse has to drop. They were fine with it. And we did the right thing. And we told them, this is where the horse would be competitive. She won at 25. She got claimed to 25, so winning a claim is nice. And we keep following her. To Marshall's point, we're fans of Happy Sophia. If she ever kind of gets down a little further, we may bring her back. On the other side of it, we had a horse we were involved with a really nice trainer out of Kentucky last year. We were a minority owner for 25%. No, actually 40%. She ran 3 times at maiden special weight. Trainer said, I got to move her to maiden 40. The 60% owner said, no way. You promised me when I bought her with you that you would never put her in a claiming race. So as soon as you hear that, you're like, well, something got crisscrossed there. This trainer, of course, didn't say that ever. We had to go to a little legal letter writing back and forth to get bought out. This horse to this day has not yet run in a claiming race, has not finished better than 7th, maybe 8th. And our mistake was not knowing, this was the first time we ever partnered with this particular person, and the mistake was probably not knowing your partner. So maybe that's the takeaway, is know your partners.
Well, that leads to my next question. Do you have a retirement plan in place for these horses before you buy them, or how do you approach that with your partners?
Yeah, they know when we claim, of course, here in New York, it's a little 0.0125%, I think.
That's nice.
Tax, the word tax was used yesterday. I don't think of it that way. I think of it as a 401k deposit for that horse. We had one here, Wayne's Footsteps, that was taken through the Take the Lead program, where he was kind of reprogrammed to go off the track and then placed. Yeah, we love 401ks for the horses.
I like that too. In this first week of Saratoga, there were so many claims. I'm sure that really padded the pockets of the aftercare, which is wonderful for these horses. Any thoughts on aftercare before we move on to?
No, I mean, I think it's just a huge part of, I think the game in general has done a lot better job the last 5 years. There's so much more work to do. I mean, I think a lot of the sales companies have done a great job. Like I know TaylorMade, I think we donate 1/4% of all the commission to the TAA. Medallion donates a percentage of any Breeders' Cup purse earnings to the TAA. Mm-hmm. We've done handicapping events with the Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation. So, I mean, it's really important. The majority of our horses, again, because we only buy fillies, and we sell all of them at the end of their racing career through public auction, they're going to go be brood mares, which is kind of a different thing, but it doesn't make it any less important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we will, for the horses that we have racing, even some of the ones we bought, we went to Washington State and bought a horse back. Now, we don't subject our partners to that, and we actually don't raise money. We don't have our partners, when they're joining our partnership, we don't have them allocate money to retirement itself. We encourage them to donate to certain groups that especially help our horses. For us, Turning for Home in Pennsylvania is a huge program. Thoroughbred Retirement Foundation, New York's program, Kentucky. We have connections in Kentucky who are able to sell a lot of our horses off the racetrack. I had a homebred named Dot Matrix that won $700,000 on the track, and I gave the horse to Brad Cox's assistant trainer, and she sold him for $5,000, and he's a hunter jumper. And that, in fact, that was her profit. I'm glad she got to keep the money because it helps her move more horses on. And he's a hunter jumper in Canada. And you always, take great pride in a horse that you love, and it's a horse that I bred and was my first stakes winner, and glad that he has a second career. And again, a lot of these horses, they're workhorses. He wouldn't be happy just standing in a field. He needs to work, right? He loved his job as a racehorse. I wasn't gonna, by the end, he'd won stakes races for me. I wasn't gonna lose him for 40 up here, and so was able to give him away, and he's got a second job that he enjoys, and hopefully he has a long career as a hunter jumper.
That's wonderful. And I would like to point out to all of you, be aware that if you sell a horse privately with the intention of retiring it, it may not get retired, even if you trust the person you're selling it to. So go on the Jockey Club website, And there is a form you can fill out and have notarized on either side of the transaction about retired from racing. And I just did this with I just took a Pioneer of the Nile horse home to be my fox hunter, and he is awesome. And I made sure I did that paperwork for the owner so he felt secure and knew he did the right thing retiring this horse. So that's a very important document. Don't let the horses slip through the cracks. Go on the Jockey Club website and call the Jockey Club if you can't find the form, because they're so helpful. Every time I call, they answer my questions immediately. Okay, so communication. What do you find, you guys, is the best way to communicate with your partners? Email, text, what are we doing out there?
Well, I mean, we're low cost. Both Clay Sanders and I have day jobs, so we don't, we will email and text our partners. We don't, we're not there videoing every work or the sort of constant updates that others may do. But, we email and text, and that works well. And we have are constantly in communication with our trainers. We have a lot of trainers who work for us. They're trainers who, I'll talk to maybe once every 2 months on the phone, but I'm texting with them every day. Text is a great thing, right? You also have this record of everything that's said. And so, for us to just email has worked. I've started recording kind of podcasts for our partners to send out, not only for them, but really for me. It gives me a record of what's going on with the horse, because we have a lot of horses in training, and sometimes I forget.
You probably have a newsletter at TaylorMade, a video podcast newsletter.
Yeah, we do. We have like a weekly update every week that just goes out. We have an update website that's just a private website where the update gets posted every week. We do like a video race previews, video race reviews after the race. We also have like a text service, so we can just text people and say, hey, the website, new update, or 30 minutes to post. We'll do little betting videos, like, for every race we have a $100 suggested wager if you were going to bet, which sometimes turns out good and sometimes it doesn't. Over the weekend, if you followed it, though, we did have a horse run second at 22-1, and we suggested, there was a lot of value, and we suggested betting in second in exacta. So I personally took it and won like $1,500. So,
nice.
But we just, my goal is to try to get maximum levels of engagement. And again, it comes back to, if you're putting up this money, I want to make sure that if you put up 50 grand, I come back to you at the end of 2 years and say, hey, I gave you back 40. Was this experience worth $10,000 to you? And the more engaged people are, the more they go to the race and all, they're like, this is the best $10,000 I've ever spent. And we'll have other people that have never been to any of the races, and they're like, you know what, it probably wasn't worth it. And what I would tell them is, it's probably not a good fit. We want people to go and be a part of it so that, it's just added value. And, we did a seminar with Lynn for all of our partners on how to maximize your tax advantage, or it's how do we construct the stable of buying proven horses. We look at doing stuff like that all the time, because it increases engagement, and ultimately, happier partners are returning partners.
Yeah, engagement's the key word. Just coming from the media and entertainment industry, we put out a paddock report once a week, give or take, that communicates to 500-600 people. Probably 40% open rate on those emails with MailChimp. MailChimp is a great little tool if you don't use it to get word out. We also do more private communications to people that are specifically involved in an ownership of a horse or group of horses that you might not want to say to the more public group. We've got some, we do Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Don't do it enough because everybody's got day jobs, quite frankly. It would be nice if there was some kind of a central social machine that we could probably subscribe to. We have fingers in a little bit of everything. But people love to know when we're racing, how to watch it, how to watch the replay. I like the suggested wager idea. That's a good one.
All right, Lynn, I'm going to hit you with a new question.
I thought you asked me about that question. I was going to say to you, what I do is I go to sleep each night with the 51% owner, okay? So she knows everything that's going on.
Let's talk best practices. You specialize in accounting practices for owners. What are some of the best practices an owner can have that will make owning racehorses a better experience?
It's fun to say, I'm in this game, okay, as a hobby, or I'm funning because I love horses. It just won't work, I don't think, okay? You can have fun. You can have a group of people that get together that you enjoy being parts of the horses. But then the best practices is, as we said before, have a game plan. Is your game plan to be in the Breeders' Cup? Is your game plan to win a Grade 1? Is your game plan just to have fun? Because your business whole setup is different depending on what your goals and objectives are. So you got to have goals and objectives. And I sound like a recording is no matter which one of those pots you want to go into, keep your records and know what you're doing, so at least you don't put on your return hobby, which is not deductible. You put down passive investor, which means you can only write them off against passive income, which is hard to get. Be active for not only for the enjoyment part, but for the rest of the thing. That's the business plan.
Love it. For the rest of you up here on the panel, accounting practices for owners has been the topic, and having accurate and timely accounting, anything you guys can add to that about profit and loss?
Yeah, I'm
and
going to talk to Lynn afterwards, because our managing partner just got an estimate for the K1 creation for next year, and it like tripled. And for a group like ours that tries to have as low a markup as possible, as low an expense ratio as possible, to get a $30,000 K1 tax bill from our accountant seems crazy, unaffordable. And
we use Lynn, so I think he can beat that.
You get a discount for a horseman. Come on, you get a horseman discount.
And Lynn was talking about discounts earlier.
Yeah, K1. Yeah. I mean, technically 10 Strike is the shell company that owns the horse, and our partners own part of a venture that goes in 10 Strike, so we don't do K1s. We send out quarterly statements. I would suggest, if you partner with people, that you put up the money first, and we actually raise more money and hold money aside for all the bills. Our goal is to never have to do a second raise, just to send the money afterwards. And man, I tell you what, if you can put in 50 and get 40 back, sign me up, because it's we've had some where we've raised a bunch of money, we didn't leave enough of a buffer, and we're doing a second call, and that's no fun. But yeah, the accounting part and the record keeping, our accountants keep records of each entity by horse, right? So we can pull up any horse and see our P&L on it, and we kind of know where we are, kind of getting an idea of where you are, and knowing being able to pull that up on a weekly basis. It can make you very sad at times. You can lose sleep at night during the pandemic when they're just eating and training, and there's no revenue coming in. But it's important to know where you are, and it's important to keep good records.
Okay, let me just leave with one more thing. If you're starting out, don't start out as an individual. Start out as a limited liability company, because you can deduct so much more through an limited liability. Plus, you have that corporate shell, so if anything happens, they can't sue you. Limited liability company.
Sole proprietorship or S corp?
I'm saying instead of a sole proprietorship, form a limited liability company. It's an LLC.
LLC.
No, I know, but you can have a choice within that.
Yes, you can. But I'm only knowledgeable about LLCs. You have to ask another accountant when I talk about subchapter S's or.
All right, well, let's go to the audience for questions.